Oh, hey, good morning, everybody. You're watching Rebel Roundup. I'm your host, Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm joined by my beautiful real life best friend from Regina, Saskatchewan, Lise, Merle. Now, it is Wednesday, so you notice different graphics moving in the background. It's Western Wednesday here on the live stream, and that is when we convene the Buffalo panel, where we bring in, I think, experts in Western issues, Western alienation. We've got a banger of a show today, but first, Lise, how's it going?
Oh, Sheila Gunn Reid. Well, greetings from a very stormy Saskatchewan. Over the last number of days, we have experienced several polite poundings from Mother Nature, reminding us who's boss around here. And we have a story coming up about a farm in southeast Saskatchewan that got wiped off the map in a tornado
Yeah,
last night. And we're going to cover that a little later. But all of this to say, we're coming in hot from
yeah.
Saskatchewan.
Yeah, you're getting Wizard of Oz style weather
A
there.
guy got Dorothy'd right out of his bathroom, but
Yeah.
by a tornado yesterday, and we got the footage. So stay tuned for that, everybody.
Okay.
But all of this to say, it's going to be a real spicy show, and I can't wait
Yeah.
for it.
That second half of the show, we'll get to that. First half of the show, though, is with the panel. If you're watching us on Rumble, excellent free speech platform. You want to have your say while supporting the work that we do at Rebel News out of the goodness of your heart, not the mandatory confiscation of your money so you can give it to people that you don't like in the mainstream media. You can leave a Rumble rant if it's over the $5 US cutoff. We are hereby reading it on air. Under that, we'll do our very best, time permitting. And I really stress time permitting because it is Wednesday, which means after the live stream, I go into meetings that could obviously be emails. If you are watching us on YouTube, same rules apply. Their pay chat is called a super chat. If you miss the live version of the show, but you just really want to have your say and you love yourself some Sheila and Lise, you can leave a paid comment called a super thanks. All right, let's get into it. We had a fourth panelist. I believe he's having tech issues, but that's okay, because our remaining panelists can certainly hold his own weight and carry a show, actually. So I'm really excited that he's on the show. It's David Knight Legg. He's an advisor to governments, but also the chairman of Elements
Oh,
Capital Advisors. Yes, Lise, go ahead. What were you going to
hello,
say?
David Nightleg. I'm so
Hey,
delighted to
Lise,
see you.
great to see
But
you.
Berta Proud Dad has just come in with an update. The power just went out at his house,
Oh,
so he will
okay.
join us when the power goes back on. But we have David Nightleg here,
We
so
have David Knight
nobody's
Legg,
nobody's
so it's okay.
complaining. Yeah.
All right. Yes, we had Berta Proud Dad. All of a sudden, he disappeared. So
Oof.
perhaps some of that Saskatchewan weather is getting him.
Mhm.
Let's get right into the show. Olivia, I'm going to jump around a little bit on the schedule here. This from Danielle Smith, saying the numbers don't lie. Alberta continues to be the economic engine of Canada, leading the country in growth, jobs, and wages. She says when Alberta succeeds, Canada succeeds. Which this is interesting. It appears to me as though the current rest of the country is a bit of an anchor around the leg of Alberta. The rest of the country is falling into what's being dubbed a technical recession, which is really just a recession. And yet, in spite of federal government policies, Alberta seems to be doing okay. I think the point of a lot of people is we could be doing a hell of a lot better. I'll go to David.
Yeah, we can. I mean, when we went through that bizarre phase where we had 4 years of NDP rule, we got a taste in Alberta of what the country has lived under federally, which is the idea that the government knows better than families know about how to allocate their capital to themselves and to the community around them. And I think the number one thing that we did when we started restructuring the economy was cut taxes, cut some of the red tape and the regulation, and start to unlock the entrepreneurial spirit of Albertans. Here's an extraordinary fact that I don't think a lot of people understand. In 2019, when we said we were going to cut the corporate tax from 12 to 8, we were making somewhere, as a sort of finger math, somewhere in the range of around, sort of call it, I believe it was about 3.5, 3.6 billion in corporate taxes. By the time, I think it was a year ago, with the lower corporate tax rate, we were making twice the amount of money, over 7 billion in corporate tax receipts. Canada is so massively overtaxed and massively overregulated that it continues to sort of fight itself. So you see productivity dropping, You see by almost every measure a decline in the standard of living across the country as a result of government trying to do too much, which is sort of ironic. I think if the government's trying to help, things would be getting better. Here's something that came up the other day that I noticed, Sheila, and I was going to post something about it. I haven't posted about it yet. Cory Morgan is sort of the lone Liberal Party member of Parliament in Calgary Confederation. And he put out an interesting stat. He said, you know, if you look at median income, Canadians are actually ahead of Americans by 23% in median income. And that's a very interesting stat. If you take mean income, Canadians are behind Americans by 70%. So he's being pretty selective about how he's selecting it. But here's another important stat. If you look at median income in 2015, Canadians were ahead of the Americans by 63%. So it's declined every year to being only ahead by 23% now from where we were at in 2015. So even by the measure that Cory wants to use, and I think the Prime Minister has also started to work with that measure, you've seen a very steep decline, almost by 2/3, the gap that existed between the median income in 2015, the advantage that Canadians had over Americans, and the gap that exists today, which is now only 23%, when it used to be 63%. Also, median income is a very unusual metric to use because it includes things. Median is just the one person at the center of the entire population. So it's kind of like how high the watermark is on the middle, right? But if you take mean income, which is the average of everyone's income divided by the number of people, the Americans are ahead of us by 70%. Their average wealth is up in the 600,000 range, whereas ours is in the 300 and something range. So I think one of the things that Canada has got to do, you see the selective use of statistics federally right now to try and paint a better picture. I think in Saskatchewan, Lise, they call it putting lipstick on a pig. But the situation in Canada has declined significantly in 10 years. And it's like not wanting to be honest about that is preventing us from actually doing the things we need to do to get it right. And one of the things I found when I came back to Alberta to work specifically on the economic recovery plan was that we'd started to tell ourselves sweet little lies about where we stood in the world. And a lot of Canadians just aren't aware of how far behind the rest of the planet we are in cutting our corporate taxes, getting rid of red tape, removing these fake climate initiatives that do nothing for the planet, but hold back the development of our energy and our ability to reach global markets with it. So first thing first, Sheila, I would say if we're sort of looking at the state of play, the conversation around why there's, you know, sort of this animation around independence in Alberta, it's because Canada is failing so badly. So even when they take their very best statistic and you unwrap it, you realize it's a terrible statistic. It's a statistics that's declined almost 2/3 since from where we sat in 2015, but that's the one they're trying to hang their hat on right now. When people do that, they only add fuel to the conversation around why is Alberta still having to fight its own federal government to be able to build global market access and to be able to really create the wealth that could set this country apart. We have more oil than Russia and the United States combined, the two energy superpowers that everybody looks at. We have more gas. We produce as much gas as Qatar. I remember when I took Jason Kenney to New York to meet some of the bankers there, I turned to him and I said, you know, the shocking thing for me coming back to Alberta as a guy that sort of lived around the world and done a lot of banking is we should be walking through the streets of New York the way the Qataris do, with an entourage of 20 people and 4 armored up vehicles and outriders, because we're a more important economy. Alberta is bigger, more important, more strategically important. We're closer connected to the United States. We have, you know, $12 to $15 trillion worth of assets. We're the single wealthiest place in planet Earth. Nowhere else is even close. Nothing is close. You have 4.5 million people sitting on top of more oil than Russia and the United States combined, as much gas as Qatar, all kinds of minerals, all kinds of forestry products, a massive agricultural base. And the one thing we have to keep doing is fighting a government that's passing rules in the name of climate that have done nothing for the climate. And they do nothing for the climate because they often, you know, ironically, withhold the production and shipping of cleaner fuels to displace coal on the Chinese electrical grid, which would massively help the planet, right? So there's all these sort of ironies, and wrapped around those ironies is a series of sweet little lies that we tell ourselves about the state of the economy to try and feel better. But actually, the more honest we get as a country, the more honest we get as a province, the more we can look around the world and adopt some of the best practices that are being carried out other places that we already know work and deploy them here in Canada, and everyone will win under those conditions.
You know, it's not, Olivia, if you're watching, this is not on the board, but it just came into my email inbox. And it's from Harrison Partners. They're insolvency trustees, and I am on their media release list because I like to know how the people are feeling about the state of the economy versus how the Liberals who want to maintain power are feeling about the economy. And Harris and Partners they do these nationwide surveys. This time it was 6,500 Canadians. And of their survey, some of the key findings are 95.2% of Canadians say rising costs have affected their finances. 92% have changed how they manage their money due to economic conditions. 91% feel their financial situation can change quickly and for the worse due to factors outside of their control. 88% have postponed or canceled plans. 87% say they feel financially trapped. 85% report their family monthly expenses have increased over the past year. 76.3% say job or financial stress has negatively affected their mental health, and 60% are concerned about job security or household income due to wider economic pressures. So it's a lot different out there when you ask the people versus when you ask the politicians.
That's grim. That is entirely grim. We're talking 95.2% of people have had rising costs. Well, anybody with a memory can think back to 2015 and how far a dollar could get you, how much value our dollar had, especially against the US dollar. We could buy things just straight across the board. It was awesome. It was amazing. But this exposes, David Knight Legg, the sweet little lies that the government is telling us. When the people get to have a say, they're saying we're hurting.
Yeah. Look, I think the purpose of any political project, any political endeavor, any political party is to create the conditions under which people can flourish individually, with their families, in their communities, right? That's the basic purpose of politics. That's its goal. And what happens is when you get ideologies that move in, that purpose gets lost because ideologies displace the logic that you would normally apply to creating the conditions for human flourishing, for personal flourishing. And right now, there's a series of ideologies that I think have gotten a hold of kind of the Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa axis that have been deeply destructive of Canada's place in the world, Canada's role in military affairs, Canada's role in global security, Canada's role in global energy security, Canada's economy. And you're seeing that reflected in people's lives. You know, when you start to embrace bad ideas because they're ideological rather than fact-based, then what happens is it eventually shows up in people's lives. And that's what we're seeing right now. You know, Sheila, I'm not sure if that was a poll you were reading, but we know just from looking at the facts that when you see, anytime you see these job reports, one of the things I keep telling people is you got to find out how many of those jobs are public sector jobs.
Oh, bro, yes.
That have been purchased using more and more debt that we're handing to our kids. And you can't turn around and do what Canada's done the last, sort of 5 years and created the worst productivity in the world, right? In our peer group in globally OECD, we're on the worst trajectory in the OECD out of 40 countries. We're the worst of the G7. So we're creating that trajectory problem. And we're turning around and we're saying, okay, in order to address the problem of the crisis of these jobs, as a government, we're going to borrow more money that we don't already have from taxes. We're going to put an additional burden to pay back that money with interest on taxpayers that are already stretched. and we're going to use that money to employ even more government employees that will become a further long-term operating burden on the government that will constantly see their salaries go up. It's the worst of all worlds, right? Because what you're doing is you're borrowing money you don't have to create a permanent obligation to pay all of that money perpetually going forward to a larger bureaucracy that will give you votes and will reinforce the ideology that you want to enforce, which in many cases are things that don't do anything for the quality of life of people, or even detract from it significantly. And so I think one of the things that happens is when governments make that mistake over a period of time, they want to avoid the consequences of that. And one of the ways to avoid the consequences of that is, number one, control the media so that nobody's having an honest debate about why this is happening, and looking for alternatives, and which is what, Buffalo is a nice antidote to. And another thing they try and do is they try and use the statistics that they can grab that are getting worse and worse all the time. So net debt to GDP is just an extraordinarily dumb statistic that no other country in the world uses, but Canada uses it to confuse CBC reporters as to the status of our debt, right? But then at the same time, they turn around and you've got the Liberal Party conference saying we should force kids that look at the state of Canada and decide en masse, especially the bright ones, to leave and try their hand in places like the United States or Asia or Europe, right, where the economies provide opportunity societies. Why are they choosing to leave us? We gave them their education. They should have to pay for it. But what you want to say to those liberal guys is, wait, you're the ones that keep borrowing money and telling them they're going to have to now pay back $1.5 trillion in debt when they join our workforce. And you're the ones that spent $50 billion on EV batteries to compete with firms like Tesla that actually know what they're doing. You're the worst possible people to deploy capital into any market environment. Now you're going to try and build spaceships to compete with SpaceX? Are you kidding me? And all of this is like being given to donors. I mean, it's so obviously embarrassing. I spent a lot of time, as you know, in New York and in finance, and I'm a partner at a venture firm based out of Singapore. So I spent a lot of time dealing with global capital markets. And what you find out when people look at this stuff is a joke. My phone is full of people sort of teasing me about, SpaceX is going to put 10,000 has already put 10,000 low orbital satellites up. They're going to go for 100,000. They're going to provide less than 5 millisecond latency, which is going to change the game for everybody being able to talk on the phone anywhere on the planet. And you guys are planning in 3 years to have the government give billions of dollars to a donor-based US hedge fund-owned thing called Telesat that has a gravel pit for a launch site, and you're going to try and put up 98 satellites, 98 in 2031. And you haven't hit a single metric yet, and SpaceX keeps beating it. I mean, it's so embarrassing. But where's the press coverage on this? Where's the honesty about the fact that we will never be a low orbital satellite power? This is not a military grade solution. We're not providing autonomy or sovereignty or independence. There is nobody that wants to fly a Gripen jet to face MiG, the new MiG jets or the new jets, right? Those are flying coffins. Everybody in the military knows it. Ask our pilots what they want to fly. And yet we've got politicians for ideological reasons that want to maintain this kind of extraordinarily embarrassing elbows up motif by doing deals to create systems like launch systems or EV battery plants or second grade. I mean, look, Gripen jets are phenomenal. They're well made. They're great patrol jets, no problem, right? But they're not F-35s, right? And they can't compete with the Horizon, site. So there's all these things where as a nation, you sort of think, how do we get to a point where we are a global embarrassment everywhere else, except inside Canada, where our press won't talk about the fact that it's completely insane that we've got some gravel pit as a launch pad, a failed rocket company that hasn't had a single coordinator.
I put my RV here. Like this is appropriate for RV parking. Like perfect. This is what we have is an RV pad, guys. But David Knight Legg, there are media in Canada that are delighted to hear these stories. So please do go on.
Well, look, I mean, just ask anybody. Here's a very simple question. Here's my challenge to the Prime Minister and everybody in the cabinet. You collectively put your own money into Telesat and that launch pad and compete with SpaceX. Do it. Take your life savings and put it in there, right? You believe that'll work? Go for it, right?
Yeah.
I'm raising capital for some things right now. I challenge them to prove that they're in the taxpayer interest by putting their own money into it. You think EV plants will work? You think that'll work? You want to compete with China and Tesla? Nobody in the world wanted to fund those EV battery ideas. The only dum-dums that were willing to put money into it were the bureaucrats in Ottawa that were using our money to put $50 billion onto a huge bonfire of their own vanities because they want to be green. And now that it's happened, I don't know why nobody's been fired. Here's the thing, if the Liberal Party of Canada wants to put money into EV plants, knock themselves out, put the money in, open their own checkbooks and put the money in, right? Let's see you fund these things if they're such good ideas for the country. If they're not good ideas for the country, stop burning taxpayer money on it, and then stop complaining when all the young, bright people that have engineering degrees and finish their university programs look at something as dumb as Telesat and as dumb as the EV plants and as dumb as the gravel pit and say, you know what, I don't want a part in a country that is willing to burn all of my money and tell me that I have to pay back $1.5 trillion with interest because they wanted to look and feel green for a moment and waste $50 billion doing it. It's totally corrupt. It's totally wrong. And it sets the country back, and it's an international embarrassment. And the only place where it isn't an international embarrassment is in Canada, where our press breezily talks about why we tried. We didn't try. We took money we didn't have. We borrowed it. We still have to pay it back with interest. We lit it all on fire in things that were impossible to compete, competing with Tesla, SpaceX, and China. If there are 3 different companies or countries I don't want to compete with, it's the United States, China, Tesla, and SpaceX. And a bunch of sleepy bureaucrats that want to work from home 2 more days a week are going to compete with Elon Musk for space exploration. Sorry, I'm not putting my money into that, And if they believe that, they should put their money in. So I invite the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, everybody that's talking up this idea of sovereign low orbital satellites, to go ahead and invest in it and show us the check they're going to write. If they'll do that, then I'll say, okay, fair enough. They can put tax money behind it. But if they're not going to do that, it's corrupt. It's bad. It's not good.
I, for one, welcome our new Yugo of satellite telecommunications.
Just a lumbering beast in the sky. You'll see it creaking overhead.
Oh, yeah. No, thanks.
No, you can't put up, you can't cover anything with 98 sat. I mean, you can't even get into the math. But let the simple math be this. 10,000 low Earth orbital satellites are already in space, already operational. For the billions that we've put into this failed company that has never met a single target ever, we could have provided every rural household with full internet capabilities.
Isn't that
wow? We've written the check, done a strategic deal with SpaceX, done a strategic deal with Starlink, and got it done for Canadians. And you'd have already linked up all these great rural communities. You'd already have this stuff operational. The other thing is we're under a NORAD structure. There's no way that the U.S. military is going to allow some flunky, homemade, second-rate version of a low Earth orbital solution with 98 satellites to compete with military-grade, highly encrypted satellites that operate off of SpaceX platform and other platforms. Right? It's not going to happen ever. So even Canada's own sovereignty, the idea of, again, Mark Carney gave a great speech in Davos, very well written, but it was misleading because Václav Havel's idea of speaking truth to power and not living by lies is exactly what I'd encourage the Liberal Party to take to heart. He was absolutely correct. He was one of the great anti-communists of our era. He's a hero to me. I've got one of his original editions of his editorial board books. He's a phenomenal human being. He changed the Czech Republic, right? And he did it by hating everything that communism stood for, especially the lies that governments told people to try and keep them in line. And to try and pretend that their identity was wrapped up in the state identity, right? He hated all of that. That's why he was a poet and a playwright and rock band, everything, right? And so this great guy was saying something very important. He's like, don't live by lies, just tell the truth about it, right? If you've only got a flunky company that can't make the cut, hasn't launched a single satellite, has to rely. Here's the other thing I think is hilarious. Do you know how Telesat's going to get its 98 satellites into space?
Tell us.
No.
A trebuchet. What is it? Tell us.
SpaceX.
Oh,
They got to use SpaceX. You can't do it off the gravel pit. It doesn't work.
right.
Oh, goodness.
So the idea that so all of this stuff is just theater. It doesn't even make any sense. So live not by lies is a super important concept that I think we've got to get clear. When we announce jobs, let's be clear that in Alberta, the jobs report from last month, from May, the 14,000 jobs, vast majority of all Alberta's jobs were private sector. Only 1,200 of them were public sector.
Yep.
And I encourage the Premier to reduce that number significantly as well.
Sure.
But look, because why do we want to do that? Because what we want is we want a society, Alberta, that lives within its means, that can fully fund the operations of government with the existing tax base that it's got. The reason we cut the taxes from 12 to 8 was to create a larger base of tax revenue. And this is the great irony that the left doesn't understand. How did Alberta make twice as much money at a lower tax rate?
Right.
How did that
Economic
happen?
activity.
Because if you understand human nature, you know that when you release entrepreneurial people that grew up
Productivity goes up.
on a escape to Alberta to build businesses, they'll go crazy. And
Sure.
the more that you let them keep, the more they'll deploy that capital into hiring more people, growing their business, refining their opportunity, and going global. And so the other thing is, it's not a single size pie. A lot of people came into Alberta because we now have the lowest corporate tax rate. I encourage the Premier to take it from 8 to 5. I think we'll see an even larger tax base at 5, because you'll see some of the banks, which have the highest net effective tax rate, over 20, looking at Alberta saying it's time for us to move 10,000 seats from Toronto, which is very costly tax-wise, to Alberta, so we can recognize more of our balance sheet in a lower tax jurisdiction. So the more that Alberta endeavors, and Sheila, you know this, I've sort of debated Keith on the Federalist thing. My big pitch is we have so much good stuff we can do in Alberta right now, no matter how these referendum discussions go. Let's start lowering our tax rates. Let's become the Monaco of North America. Let's become the place where global capital comes and sets up their businesses to go around the world and to operate into the United States, because we're the lowest tax, tightest, cleanest, simplest, fastest regulatory environment. We have more oil and gas than the entire United States and Russia combined. We've got as much oil as Qatar. Unleash this, cut the taxes, grow it. We can fund the rest of Canada at will.
But do we want to, David? Do we want to? Because I'm real
Yeah.
tired of seeing the champagne receptions over in Ottawa with everybody in their fancy tuxedos and sparkly dresses, while the people of the West have to toil for generations to just get basic living expenses underway. Do we want to share that Monaco, Qatari kind of wealth with the rest of Canada? Because they're pretty mean to us, David. They're pretty mean to us. They don't seem to like us.
I think there's a good debate to be had. So let me say a couple of things about the debate, because I think that's on people's minds a lot, right?
Yeah.
Number one thing is, I grew up down near the Montana border, right? So Lethbridge, and so when I went to Red Deer, I said, I know all of you are looking down on me because I'm from way down south, right? You hoity-toity Red Deer types looking down on Lethbridge crowd. But I wanted them to know, we look down on the Tabor guys. So there's
a pecking order.
There's always someone you can look down on, right? So whoever, anybody can throw a ball. And I think people should have fun. And I'd love Canada to be a place where we celebrate stuff and people have a chance to break the champagne out once in a while. It's okay, but freeloading is not a good thing for anybody, right? And what we have in Canada is a very strange sort of trust fund negativity around Alberta, which is you resent the place that's actually paying the bills, right? And you're not honest. Again, just a lack of honesty about that. my friends in Quebec have no idea how much of their economy depends on Alberta to fund it every year. It's not even in the public awareness out there, right? That's something that Albertans are aware of, but other people aren't. And again, I think the theme is live not by lies. Tell the truth about that. Say like, look, we love our crazy Western cousins. They're great at ranching and oil and gas and ag and forestry and have the most beautiful national parks and would be an amazing country on its own. But right now we depend on them for funding us, and we're really happy to get $20 billion a year from them. Please say thank you. You know,
thank you,
and build that relationship. I think though that as conservatives in Alberta, the challenge, and this is the thing that I raised in Red Deer, Sheila knows, is
yes,
we have to really get our house in order in Alberta. We have a lot of work to do. We're still overtaxed. We still have, and one of the things I really like about this premier, she's raising some of the issues that are the crossover federal issues around the judiciary, around immigration, things that, you know, they're doing that we're bearing the consequences and the cost of. And within the federalist structure allows us to do a lot independently from the rest of the country and to get it done. And so my challenge isn't so much to engage pro-con independence as much as to say, the last thing we ever want to have happen is we form an independent place called Alberta and we give the keys to the NDP to run, right? And what you've seen happen in the conservative movement in Alberta is we become fractured. I do not know how a guy like Corey Hogan can be an MP for Calgary. I don't know. I don't know how a guy who can't tell the prime minister as a fellow liberal, you got to get rid of C-48 and C-69 to even begin the conversation around MOUs, right? Where is the speaking truth to power in the Liberal Party for the guy that's, but here's the question for conservatives. How did we almost lose Calgary to the NDP? How did we get so close in Greg McLean's riding? We got a lot of work to do to win the hearts and minds and have a vision for what Alberta can be within the structure we've already got. I think that independence is plausible, but I came back because Jason called me and said, "You're not going to believe it, the NDP won in Alberta." And I almost fell out of my chair. I was working in banking in Asia at the time. And when he kind of roped together the, he did the Unite the Right stuff, and he called me up and said, "Could you come back and maybe be finance minister or just get involved and help rebalance the budget and do that stuff?" And I promised my dad, who wasn't well, and I would definitely come back and do government service at some point. So I chose that point to come back and do the 3 years. And we set up the Indigenous Opportunities Corp to undermine the left and trying to use First Nations to undermine the building of major assets. They can now borrow capital to invest, right? Not be given money. They can borrow capital to invest, pay the capital back with interest through banks. Through that structure, we set up Invest Alberta to go deal with the ESG fraud that was happening in banks like HSBC and Barclays and in some of the insurers, to hold them to account and make sure they remove those things from their board resolutions so that we could get capital flowing back into the province again. There are 20 projects like that that still remain to be done that will strengthen Alberta's hand and give us the momentum we need to build a place where people will flourish. And one of the concerns that I have in the debate that we're having, one of the reasons I like the first 9 questions of the referendum is, number one, Alberta is a place where you can have direct democracy, have real live debates, and we're not scared to have those. You can have them in a generous, spirited way. You can have them in a very honest way. We're not scared. It doesn't have to be politically correct. It doesn't have to be someone's winning, someone's losing. I think there's a lot. I find a guy like Keith extraordinary, and I love talking to him. We're very close on how we think about things. We have a different idea tactically, but the same overall goal, which is a flourishing, highly independent, very strong, exceptionally wealthy and prosperous Alberta that is a magnet for people that want to come here and work for it, and is a deterrent for anyone who thinks they can lie to come into the country and steal benefits from people that are paid into it. And so, that Alberta, that version of Alberta, I think will be extraordinarily popular no matter how the specific vote on whether we take it to referendum or not goes in October. And that's where I think Alberta can lead the country, not only economically, job growth like we already have been, but also just spiritually, just reminding Canadians, you're allowed to have these debates. One of the things I asked Webb Kinnu, who's been chatty recently, and David Eby, who's pretty chatty, presiding over the worst, failing, disastrous economy, taking beautiful places and turning them into sad, rundown drug dens while they, run out of money and borrow even more, right? Ask them. I dare you to take the first 9 questions that we're happy to ask Albertans. Take those to British Columbians and Manitobans, see how they vote. Love to see how that goes for you. Because I think what the NDP would find is a majority of people in British Columbia, a majority of people in Manitoba would love to have the right to correct their government's record and say, no, we've had it with this obvious asylum and immigration fraud. We've had it with our kids not being able to find work. We've had it with your terrible debt, borrowing, spending ways. And we want to create a society that's better than this. And thank you for asking us. Here's our vote. You know what I love about Alberta? We're having the debate. We're the talk of the town. The whole country's talking about Alberta right now.
Agreed.
The thing is, we're going to have a great time talking about it in Alberta. People are going to vote. And you know what? The whole country should have the ability to vote on these things.
Agreed.
What are they scared of?
What are they scared of?
Us, David. Us. That's who they're scared of, and that's why they don't ask. They could certainly, because technology has changed everything. We can have direct communications with the people we elect, and they ignore us, right? We can write letters to the people we elect, and they ignore us. We can directly engage with the people that we elect on issues that are important to the public, and they can ignore us. But a referendum, well, they can't ignore that, can they?
That's MLAs, and that's where I think. Obviously, I did my time, and I came back specifically to serve Alberta. That was my goal, right? And I think that as conservatives, I encourage anybody listening to this, don't get lost in a social media rabbit hole. Get out and support your local conservative MLA. Get out now and start preparing and volunteering so that we win a landslide again like we did in 2019, and we can take Alberta in the direction we want to take it. People forget we passed 380 new laws in that time that we're in. COVID was a big problem, but we used it to get to work on a lot of stuff, and the results economically speak for themselves in Alberta, right? We continue to grow, and we've got further to go. We got more taxes to cut. We've got better mayors to elect across our right? But Sheila, you say, but look, here's one of my concerns. I keep talking to conservatives that are, and look, I understand it. I'm keen on the conversation, but part of it is like, get out and help your local MLA.
For sure.
Knock on the door, like get out and be part of the machinery in Alberta, right? The MPs we're always going to have a minority of MPs in Ottawa, and that fight's going to play out over time, even if there is a vote for independence. That's going to be a long, drawn-out set of battles. But here's the thing for Alberta. In the federalist structure, Alberta has extraordinary authority over its own business. When we sued the federal government, which was a new thing, everyone was like, don't sue them. We sued them. We keep winning when we sue them, right? We sued them. We won on Dow. We won on the CEPA legislation. We won on the C-69 unconstitutional cross-jurisdictional stuff. Alberta needs to have stronger landslide conservative governments that will be much tougher from completely running Alberta like a Monaco, like a really strong free enterprise, free market society that's got the strength, courage of its convictions to be able to run itself. So once no matter how you come out on the independence thing, the question is, who's going to actually run this place? And if we're getting too close to allowing the NDP back into giving them the keys to the car again, I'm concerned about that. And so my big theme constantly right now is anybody that's listening to any of these podcasts is, who's your MLA and how can you support them? And if they're not a conservative, how are you allowing that to happen in your backyard? Get on.
What are you doing? What are you doing to fight the other guys then, basically?
Yeah.
Basically.
Look, it's your community. It's your kids. You want your grandkids to stay in Alberta and build a business and raise a family and see your grandkids every day? Work hard to make sure that you've got people in government that respect what you think, how you believe, how you want to operate, and your freedoms. If you don't do that, there will be weirdness in our schools. Teachers' unions will start to teach kids this sick trans ideology that's destroying young lives, and they'll get away with it because there's not a strong enough representation of the contrary, the conventional position, the position that now dominates in Denmark and Sweden and Finland and the UK, right? That doesn't permit any of this stuff in the schools, doesn't permit any, you know, how are we allowing that to happen in a place like Alberta, a conservative place? How are we letting
Saskatchewan, Legg, like across the country? How did we allow this to happen? Exactly.
Well, because a lot of people sort of think that it's okay to kind of put a like on something, and they forget you have to work for these things. This society we inherited was fought for by people willing to die in trenches in France and on beaches in France.
Yep.
Right? And we kind of want to put a like on something or see somebody get a nice snarky comeback. Like, it's not enough. It's not enough. And it's not going to be enough to put a vote in for independence or put a vote in for how, I actually believe a lot of people are going to vote to have the referendum, no matter where they stand on things. I think there's a libertarian streak in Alberta where people like the idea of having the conversation and having the vote. Yeah. And I think people have, and I've said this to some friends of mine in the Liberal Party, I think you're playing with fire right now. And especially some of the people they're sending out to be like, send Poilievre into people what's going on. I mean,
I'm so happy you said that, David Knightley, because at the same time as the Liberal government and Liberal Party is saying, oh, this is nothing, there's nothing to see here. Well, you're sure putting a lot of effort into an oven burger that guys, like they betrayed themselves. There's another one of their sweet little lies, David Knightley.
Yes.
Yeah, look, they're rightfully, well, look, I think they started to realize that the numbers don't lie, and you see people. I saw Charles Adler getting very excited about I don't know what the poll was. I'm gonna have to try and find it, but my finger math on the polls, which is there's a lot of polls that have happened over this at times. A third of Albertans are very happy to vote to say, let's try it on our own. The current situation is getting out. It doesn't work, right? A third of Albertans in the middle are like, I'm not so sure I want to go, but I'm happy for there to be a conversation about it, potentially a vote about it, right? And that third is right now in the decision spot of saying, does having a vote actually undermine the economic stability of the province or not? And that's what I get asked about all the time. So I did some of the deals that brought big investments into the province. But what you're seeing is Alberta is the #1 investment destination right now. And I think watch for Stampede. There's going to be some major announcement, right? Major. Alberta's got no problem bringing in investment. But then there's a third that think this is all totally nuts and crazy. And these about right-wing crazies that don't understand. And there's sort of, you got to stay true to your country. And I respect the instinct across the board. I think there's 3 very different instinctive ways that people are going. But the most amazing thing about Alberta is we can have that debate.
Yes.
True.
Quebec is, in a funny way, sort of our soul sister on this stuff, because they're also similarly very happy to have the argument for cultural reasons. They want to defend something they think is a unique society, and they see it eroded by a set of increasingly sort of federal incursions on the idea of what Quebec is and can be. And so for different reasons than ours, which are principally economic, those are more cultural, they want to have that conversation. They've had that conversation. And in the course of having that, the country had to respond to it in various ways. And they have a much longer history in the country than we do, and a different set of sort of presumptive sort of advantages in the way representation works right now. But right now, I think the debate is going to happen, and there's a healthy way to have it. But what I encourage conservatives to do is look at that debate and ask themselves a single question. Do I want to be in an independent Alberta if the NDP are running it?
Right.
It's a fascinating question.
And if you don't want that, get to work. Quit liking stuff on social media and get out and meet some people. And, if you're conservative, you believe in little platoons. You believe that your community belongs to you. It doesn't belong to you believe your school belongs to you and your kid. It doesn't belong to a teachers union.
Oh, all day. That's what we believe.
And you believe that if the teacher union doesn't get that memo fast, that you'll build another school that's independent, or it's sponsored by your local church, or it's sponsored by some people that want to create the best hockey school, like the Edge down in Calgary, which I think is incredible, or whatever. We believe in the freedom to create new places that allow kids with different gifts to thrive, and we don't believe they have to go through some cookie cutter public sector education especially if the public sector is declined to the point where they start to think that their weird French critical school sexual ideologies have a place in the classroom.
Right.
So, you know, but that's the challenge to conservatives. Like, we came too close.
Yeah.
You know? So don't switch the conversation directly to independence without answering the question that I had back in Red Deer. Sheila, you remember it. Tell me, you know, and don't, and, you know, some people are like, well, David, you know, you weren't around, you haven't gotten cynical enough yet. You haven't. I'm like, I had 3 years. Okay. I had done enough. I still have PTSD from dealing with the crazy environmentalists not clearing out Deadwood and Jasper, and then announcing that climate change burned down Jasper when, you know, every national park in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria is just fine because they believe in climate change there too. They just also know how to do forestry management, right?
Right.
So yeah, I do have PTSD from fighting the feds on every front and getting tired of their climate excuse for incompetence, 100%. Do I also find it shocking that we came this close in a provincial election to letting the NDP into the government again? I do. And I believe this premier is going to help us get away from that. But I encounter, I don't know if you encounter, I've had some friends be like, well, you know, she's just sort of betrayed her roots. I'm not going to vote.
Yes, we've heard that.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
right.
Just separate these things for a second, right? Yeah. Make sure Alberta fulfills its promise as a free market, free enterprise place where you can build a business, raise a family, and that the test is, do your grandkids want to move here more than anywhere else in the world to create a new business? And if your answer is no, they'd rather be in Malibu, then get your ass out of your chair, quit liking things on social media, and start getting conservatives elected so we can pass the laws to make this the place, whether the Ottawa is still there or not. Right? Because it's not going to work. You can't have an independent Alberta run by a bunch of leftists that want the teachers' unions to be telling your kids that their gender is confused, right? That's not working. That's not Alberta's culture. It's not the way it's supposed to work. But it's going to happen if you don't step up to the plate and get conservatives elected, not just for the economic stuff, but also for the cultural stuff that matters.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that to me is in the middle of this independence debate. I want to make sure we keep putting back out there for conservatives. Don't let this become something where someone can divide the right and allow us to go banking to come back because the craziness got so crazy after 4 years. They borrowed more money. The NDP borrowed more money in 4 years than all previous Alberta governments combined.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then they used it to buy 30,000 public sector employees.
Oh.
And they created
I thought it was 50.
30,000 additional public sector employees. They created a permanent debt operating structural deficit in the province. That's the only game they've got. The feds have done the same thing. Look what the feds did. 2015, they get elected, right? How much bigger is the bureaucracy now than 2015?
Exponentially larger.
50% larger.
Yeah, exponentially larger. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's 70% more expensive.
Oh,
70%.
And we wonder why
in that 10 years, everything's declined. We didn't have that money. None of that money was available. They borrowed money to create a much bigger federal bureaucracy voting bloc that would vote out people like Pierre in a place like Carleton, right? They got what they wanted. Yeah. They borrowed money from the next generation to spend right now on expanding an obese bureaucracy to run a country under conditions that are ideological rather than fact-based, including the climate craziness, right? And constrained a place like Alberta. But look at Alberta. What are we talking about? We let that happen in Alberta.
Yeah, we did.
Right? What's going on? Wake up. We can't just have this fight, pretend Ottawa are the bad guys. We did it to ourselves for 4 years. In 4 years, they borrowed more money than every other Alberta government combined and blew it on expanding the government. And we're still undoing that damage, starting by cutting the taxes and forcing the government to live on more money from lower taxes. So, you know, we got work to do, and the independence debate is going to suck up a lot of oxygen, but let's get the conservatives understanding we got to win back our cities, win back our towns, and win back our province if we're going to be credible on saying we can manage an independent nation.
Nobody says it better than David Knight Legg. If I
Exactly.
say so myself.
On that note, we're about half an hour late for an ad break, and we were only supposed to have David for the first half an hour of the show.
Oh, I get
didn't wanna
fired up
stop
thinking
him.
about this.
Oh, we love
Go.
this, David Knight. Like, keep being on fire, brother. We love this version of
Oh,
you, and you're welcome here.
We do
anytime.
need to hit an ad break, but before we let David
Let's hit an
go,
ad break.
David, how do people find you on social media? And if you'll stay with us on the other side, we've got some
Sure.
lighthearted stuff that I want to show you. We'll
Yeah,
just
let's do
wind
some
you up and
lighthearted
set you
stuff. I
loose.
got carried away on the government stuff.
Okay, let's hit an ad break, and then we'll do something lighthearted, and then we'll wrap the show.
For generations, many Canadians have preserved more than just firearms.
Many of our men and women
They've
clad in
preserved
uniform.
history, tradition, competition, memories. But under Trudeau, and now Carney, heirlooms, estates, collectibles, and competition firearms now have to be surrendered and destroyed. While violent gun criminals get pass after pass, openly ignoring any legislation, lawful gun owners are trapped in an increasingly unfair legal system. But we can help. Canada's National Firearms Association's Save Firearms program offers the legal pathway to preserve what matters, while we work towards a political solution. Don't let yours be next. Save history, save heritage, save firearms. Visit nfa.ca today to learn more.
Canada's been told to just quit smoking for decades, same message over and over, and yet millions of Canadians still smoke. So let's ask a follow-up question. For those who don't quit, what about change? In 2026, Canada has options that didn't exist years ago. Smoke-free alternatives for adults who would otherwise continue smoking. That doesn't mean risk-free, it means informed choice. If you don't smoke, don't start. If you smoke, quit. But for those who don't quit, change could still be part of the conversation. That's why Canadians should check out unsmoke.ca, an information resource focused on smoke-free alternatives and honest facts, not judgment. Put the lighter down, Canada. Learn what your options are.
In Canada, firearms owners like me understand the importance of safe, effective self-defense options. That's why we're proud to have Berta as a sponsor. Berta's less lethal launchers are designed to help protect you and your family without taking a life. Berta offers peace of mind, accessibility, and a practical layer of personal security for Canadians who value safety. Learn more at byrna.ca/rebel. That's byrna.ca/rebel. Alrighty. Before we wrap the show, and we still have David, so this might be fun. Before we came on air, we were talking about the resiliency of Saskies. And as an Albertan, I know it because so many people from Alberta are actually from Saskatchewan. As I said before we started recording, thank you, Roy Romano, NDP government, for giving us all your best and brightest. But Lise had this clip on her social media accounts of Danny Brock. And Lise, I'll let you set this up because this is wild. As we said before we started recording, like Wizard of Oz style tornado extraction from a home here.
True story. So like I said at the beginning of the program, Saskatchewan has had some extreme swings in its nature, in its mother nature's style weather patterns these last couple of days. And yesterday, so we've had really big thunder boomers come out of the south. And this is just outside of Alameda, Saskatchewan, right on the border of the US, and a storm started and spouted a humongous tornado. Danny Brock, farmer near Oxbow, Saskatchewan, between Oxbow and Alameda, is on his phone and he is watching this thing come towards him. And he says into the phone, now my friend has seen the footage. My friend says, I think it's going to hit my house. And he runs into the basement of his house, like all of us are trained to do, find an interior room with 4 solid walls, get in the bathtub, get in the shower, get in the basement. He does that. And he said about 40 seconds later, he opened the door and there was no house there anymore. His entire farm was wiped off the map in less than 1 minute by this tornado. Nobody was injured. Everybody is fine. Animals are still questionable. I mean, it's a huge space that they have to look for. But could we play the clip of Danny?
He seems remarkably unfazed by all of it.
So he's regarded. So this is how this works. My bestie from Bean Fate's brother is this buddy's neighbor. Okay, so I know the neighbor guy. I've slept at their house.
I have that hoodie.
So
I do have that hoodie.
This is Danny Brock, Saskatchewan legend, seconds after being Dorothy'd out of his own bathroom by a tornado. Just can we watch it a little bit? The language. Listen, Danny
is rough, but he did survive a natural disaster.
We're all just gonna give him grace for what he just lived through. So yeah, can we watch? Yeah. Olivia, let's watch. Danny Brock, everybody.
And I'm like, in the bathroom now. Fuck, close the door, and it wasn't fucking 40 seconds, man. That fucking house was leaving, and fucking, I was like,
go on. There's nothing.
When we came up, you couldn't see. It was hailing so fucking hard. When Brett came to pick me up, because he phoned me, and I didn't think I'd have service downstairs. And I was like, I don't even know if I can get out. Open the bathroom door, and I'm like,
where was Chelsea?
She was in town. But I was like, fucking gas line. Like the fucking gas line. We gotta get the fuck out of this house.
Mm-hmm. Don't go anywhere. Danny's mom's phone's charging on your...
Okay.
So
I'll let her.
Here we go on.
I can't even plug into this truck. And I'm like, I can take it over to our truck. We'll charge it for you.
So this is a perfectly functioning, humongous Saskatchewan farm that was just wiped off the map. And you'll see, like you guys, he doesn't have trucks. He doesn't have a toothbrush. Okay. His house is gone. All of the buildings are gone. All of their granaries are gone. All of the trucks are gone. Every tree is stripped of leaves. This was a significant tornado. This guy just walked away. His neighbors showed up. And this is what we got in Saskatchewan. I can tell you though, Rebel News does have fingers, little fingers in the community, and we're looking to reach out to this family because obviously they are going to need a lot of support. Look at this. Everything got picked up, thrown and gone. The end. Nothing left. So what I can tell you about this area, you guys, is there's enormous community support for when people really need a hand. There will be some sort of event or some sort of GoFundMe. I'll be happy to share it when I learn about it. But for right now, we're just sending our very best to the Brock family of Oxbow, Alameda area of Saskatchewan. And they say that Mother Nature can take out a farm in a season, but sometimes it's quicker than that, guys. So yeah, Danny Brock, everybody.
Remarkably calm.
Just talking,
he survived. Just a Saskatchewan farmer. It's like he got a flat during seeding the way he was talking, and not that his farm is just gone.
Oh, it really is a devastating level of
my goodness,
of destruction there today. Yeah, it was. And he watched it coming, you guys. He literally watched it coming and thought to himself, "This is going to hit my house," and took cover. But thankfully, nobody was injured. Yep. The family wasn't at home, and they're going to be rebuilding. So, Rebel News, we're going to keep you posted on this story and let you know how you can help the Brock family of Oxbow, Saskatchewan.
That is wild. That's some salty language, but if there's ever a condition under which
Agreed.
That would be it. I think those trucks had to land somewhere too. I mean, this is crazy.
Right.
A huge amount of energy went through that yard in 1 second, but the footage is just unreal of this storm. That thing blew over literally dozens of miles in Saskatchewan, just through the open prairie, nothing but it unfortunately found the Brock house, and this is where they are today. But like I said, they're in good hands in Southeast Saskatchewan. They've got good neighbors who know how to help, and we're gonna make sure that we can support this family however we can. Yeah, here's another. Look at this beast of a tornado.
The finger of God just coming for you.
This is right outside of Alameda, Saskatchewan. I was incidentally working in this area all this last weekend on a story that we'll have coming up. But yeah, it was incredible. So anyway, welcome to stormy Saskatchewan, everybody.
If I were to be left with one outfit, I would be happy with my Kubota hoodie. Honestly.
Yeah.
If it's got to be one, that's fine. Spend enough at Kubota that the least they could do is give me a hoodie.
Oh my God.
The brand of tough guys.
Yes.
Sheila Gunn Reid, this makes me want to wear my wedding dress all of the time, just in case my house picks up and blows away. And a neighbor comes over to watch. Yeah, isn't this wild? So I think this is in Alameda. So this was a supercell system that came through North Dakota, Montana into Saskatchewan and Manitoba.
Wow.
For several hours. It was active for several hours. And it's just unreal. But Saskatchewan is called the land of living skies.
Yeah, I bet.
Good reason. This is why. So thanks for indulging me on our Saskatchewan weather story of the day.
Okay, last story before we wrap it up. We usually close out on something we call the daily cringe because there's a lot of that out in the world
together.
And we like to get a little uncomfortable and weirded out before we close the show. It's I think it bonds us with our viewers.
Trauma bonds us together.
This one is from Prince Albert Pride, and which is probably I don't know, quite literally a handful of people, if I know anything about Prince Albert. But
we covered them yesterday. You guys remember yesterday when we showed you that Pride event where they were like, we got a petition to strip parents of rights in Saskatchewan. 50 signatures. Those
50
people.
signatures.
These are the same people again today. Please, Sheila, tell the people.
They have posted a notice that they have given people bed bugs. So this is from Prince Albert Pride. We'd like to advise everyone who attended to throw their clothes in the dryer on high heat. If possible, laundromats for sure have the right type to monitor their clothes, furniture. PA Prides reserves the right and will be exercising it to ask individuals with hygiene or infectious health issues to leave events for the comfort and safety of all. It came to our attention that individuals with bed bugs were at both gamer nights. So it was a Pride event where of the gaming community, which are, I guess, targeted towards the LGBTQ plus AI community. And they gave a bunch of people bed bugs. And they can't do this because it reinforces all my stereotypes. And I try to be a little more open-minded. And then I see stuff like this and I'm like, well,
I was like, are they talking about all infectious health issues? Like all of them? Or is it just the bedbugs PA Pride? Just wondering. Anyway, if you're wondering where not to send your kids in the city of Prince Albert, it is
gamer nights.
Okay, you want bed bugs in your houses, mamas? Send them to the Pride people for the gamer nights. And I would argue that probably bed bugs are one of the least offensive things maybe that are happening there. I don't know for sure, but it's up to you if you want to send your kids there. Okay.
What is the distinctive angle of gamer night with a Pride sponsor? Is it just?
Well, it is to lure the children, David, as far as I can tell.
So
with activities, with food, with camaraderie, with affirming, inclusive
bed bugs.
Areas. Yeah, that's the and bed bugs.
Bed bugs. Over to the bed bugs.
Yeah.
And the infectious.
Yeah, it's a little weird that they don't do the drag queen story hour in the old folks' home. It's always got to be the elementary school, right? Why is that?
Truth.
Isn't that?
Why is that?
Weird?
Yeah.
It's almost like they can't indoctrinate the old people, so they go for the young ones.
Yeah. Well, the old timers might give them a little more trouble for their efforts, but yeah, it's strange. This it's also strange that it's kind of gone from being a recognition of equality to sort of being this, fierce indoctrination and public tax money used to paint streets and other things. It's moving in a direction where it's got an intentionality indoctrination that is really unusual. I think anything related to any kid under 18, there's got to be, one of the things the conservative government's got to do is just say enough's enough on this stuff. The gender, like if you're, high schools are not a place for, obviously, kids can be sexually active at younger ages and stuff, but the idea that we're starting to see this ideology, which is a very specific ideology, portrayed as sort of a social justice thing when it contains all of these very odd and unique kind of targeting angles to them. There's got to be a real conversation about that.
Thank you.
You're
right.
Very thoughtful, gay guys who are leading some of those conversations now from a conservative perspective. And boy,
the
I
OG
think
gays, the OG gays and lesbians are having the conversations. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think especially when it comes to, leave kids out of all of these things. Kids should have an age of innocence. And even when they're not being so innocent, they should have space to kind of understand who they are without having people particularly trying to manipulate or groom them.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would love to see the data to support seeing a man in sequined ladies' underpants gyrate his genitals at 5-year-olds. I would like to see how that plays out in the childhood literacy rates. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's also just, it's disgusting, and it's wrong, and it should be discontinued immediately. Like, I think at some point, conservative political figure, and this is happening in other parts of the world, obviously, right? This doesn't happen, by the way, in places like Singapore or Hong Kong.
No,
like
exactly this.
Like,
Asia,
Asia,
this does not happen in Asia.
No, go to places with serious, places that have the top reading, writing, and arithmetic scores.
Exactly.
At Singapore.
The places that are producing the generation that's going to lead the world forward and things are not permitting random aged out men to dress up as women and try and get into children's classrooms. It's disgusting. But I think there should be a conversation around that. I think it's got to be led by people that are sort of gay, lesbian, but have a perspective that can protect kids.
Well, and parents must just be able to wield their authority and say no more.
All this stuff, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I could just bottle you. I could just squeeze you and bottle you, David Knight Legg. I've enjoyed listening to you so much.
Me too.
Oh, it's great. Thanks for the chance to be on the Buffalo Hour. It's great. I get carried away anytime we talk about.
We love it.
Alberta and what the opportunity is. It's got the most. It's like this crazy undervalued stock. If you could buy it, you would. Like, it's just. It's got every opportunity in the world to be the wealthiest single democracy, either within the federal structures of province, or if it ends up being independent, it would be wealthier than anything. Nothing's even close, not even close.
For us. I really want that for us.
I do.
Yeah, we can do it. We can do it. But we got to start again. It's up to everybody listening to the show to get up and get going on getting conservatives elected to create that kind of place.
Okay, but I know we have to sign off on the show. Thanks, David, for coming with us on this whole wild ride.
Thank you.
Yes, let people know how they can find you. I know you're very active on social media, very thoughtful on social media as well.
On X is fine. I don't really do anything anywhere else on social media. I just post my opinions on there once in a while, for better or for worse.
No, I think they're very thoughtful. I think for better. And I think Lise agrees with me.
Yep.
Thanks, David. Those of you who gave chats, I know there are some of you, just time permitting, we're out of time, but I promise I'll get to them tomorrow. So that's a reason for you to come back tomorrow as a viewer. It's a little hook from me. Olivia, thanks for keeping everything going behind the board. Those of you who pitched in a little bit to keep the lights on here, Rebel News, we couldn't do it without you. Those of you who interact with our content, that's a great way and a free way to help us, because the more you interact with our content, the more these platforms serve it up in front of more eyeballs. Special thanks to Lise for coming along with me on the show today, and of course David Knight Legg for sharing his thoughts and his experience with us. We'll see everybody tomorrow. I'm back with Tamara Ugolini, I believe. And as we frequently say on the show here, if you find us offensive, maybe don't find us at all.
You know, folks, in my many years of reporting for Rebel News, I've covered corrupt politicians, rogue bureaucrats, and even parking enforcement officers who'd rather take a nap than write some tickets. But I have to say, this is a first. Apparently, I'm now available as a gift. Rebel News has launched something we're calling shoutouts. Here's the idea. You pick your favorite Rebel News journalist, maybe that's yours truly, or maybe it's someone else, that's okay. I won't take it personally. You tell us who the message is for, what the occasion is, and any details that'll make it feel personal. A name, an inside joke, a few things we should know about them. The more info you give us, the better the video. We'll record a selfie-style video and deliver it straight to your inbox within 3 business days. Birthdays, graduations, anniversaries, retirements, Father's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas, you name it. Messages are available in 30, 60, and 90-second increments, starting at just $100. Need it fast? Add 24-hour rush delivery for an extra $50. And every dollar you spend goes directly toward supporting Rebel News and our independent journalism. No government bailouts here, no corporate strings, just Canadians helping Canadians to keep telling the truth. Give the gift no one saw coming. Visit rebelnews.com/shoutouts. That's rebelnews.com/shoutouts to make your request today. I will be waiting.